Vladimir, stop! That's what Trump wrote on his social network, condemning the massive strike on Ukraine, including Kyiv.
I didn't like what happened yesterday. I was dissatisfied with it. We are conducting peace negotiations and then they launch missiles. And I was very dissatisfied with that. That's what I meant and what I said.
As a result, Trump officially stated in a statement that he is already putting pressure on Russia to agree to a peace agreement with Ukraine.
We are putting a lot of pressure on the Russian Federation. You don't know how much pressure I'm putting on Russia? And Russia knows it, and those close to it know it, otherwise he wouldn't be speaking now.
Well, what kind of pressure exactly? Sanctions? At this point, Trump replied that he is not ready to answer this question now, but announced that something will happen in a week.
And the pressure that Trump has in mind might be, let's say, the kind of pressure on Russia that the US could without achieving. Trump's political ambition of resolving the Russian-Ukrainian war withdraw from the political process. In my opinion, this is actually quite a serious motivation. And indeed, this constitutes political pressure for Moscow.
Does Putin really actually need Trump that much?
Moscow and Putin himself are directly counting on Trump as the person who will bring Russia out of international isolation and, moreover, essentially reset the relations between the Russian Federation and the United States.
Nevertheless, Trump still does not see Russia as an obstacle to peace. He believes that both Ukraine and Russia want peace. But is this really the case, or is it still Trump's political game?
Now imagine if the United States cannot even assert its strength, not just in war, but simply in the negotiation dialogue process against Russia, which is under severe sanctions and in international isolation, essentially losing this diplomatic confrontation. Of course, in Europe, the role of the US would then simply collapse, and simultaneously, most likely, trade relations and the support of the dollar would also collapse.
CNN also suggests that concessions from Trump for a peace agreement might not be enough for Russia, and they might demand more. For example, Lavrov stated that Moscow is ready to conclude an agreement, but there are some buts.
We are ready to reach an agreement. There are still specific points, elements of this agreement that require refinement. And that is exactly what we are working on.
Meanwhile, the Kremlin is doing what it does best: threatening. This time it's using nuclear rhetoric against NATO and EU countries. Namely, Sergei Shoigu accused Europe of allegedly preparing for a military conflict with Russia within 3 to 5 years, and building up forces at the borders of Russia and Belarus.
Now, Belarus, supposedly for protection, will preemptively move a large number of troops, and such a movement needs to be justified somehow, because everyone has satellites. Everyone understands that if Russia starts amassing Kremlin troops in Belarus towards the Suwalki corridor, Poland and Lithuania, it needs to be justified somehow.
The United States also intends to present a series of demands to the Kremlin. This concerns Kyiv's right to its own army, the return of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant to Ukrainian control, and the withdrawal of occupying forces from the Kharkiv region.
Another war criminal down. In the Moscow region, the deputy chief of the main operational directorate of the Russian General Staff, General Yaroslav Moskalik, has been eliminated. His car exploded. But not only Moskalik. In the Russian city of Bryansk, the car of Yevgeny Rytikov also exploded. He was involved in the modernization of electronic warfare systems. Meanwhile, there was another loud incident that occurred in the country of Russia. Strike drones carried out a raid on airfields in temporarily occupied Crimea. Drones were spotted in Novofedorivka and Kacha. The attack lasted 5 hours. By the way, the city of Shuya has been under attack for the 3rd time this month.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Let us remind you the 112th Missile Brigade of the Russian Armed Forces was stationed here, which fired Iskander ballistic missiles at Sumy on April 13th. And according to Russian media, a fire has once again occurred at the 51st Grau arsenal in the Vladimir region. In Russian Rostov-on-Don, a Su-30SM multi-role fighter jet was destroyed. Ukrainian intelligence described the destruction of the military aircraft as another act of resistance against the regime of Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. The approximate cost of the destroyed enemy aircraft is $50 million.
This is a significant blow to the capabilities of the Russian aerospace forces in terms of striking military and primarily civilian infrastructure in Ukrainian cities. According to the Russian side's own assessment, this is already the 8th similar incident on the territory of the Russian Federation. This concerns the destruction of Russian aerospace forces ports. This indicates a low level of effectiveness of the Russian Federation special services in preventing such acts.
As reported by analysts from the Institute for the Study of War, in recent weeks, Russian forces have likely adapted their tactics and weaponry for long-range strikes on Ukraine to weaken Ukrainian air defenses and inflict more significant damage. Among the improved missiles is the North Korean KN-23, which the occupiers used to attack Ukraine on April 24th, specifically targeting the city of Kyiv.
The Russian army has managed to improve their accuracy. If initially the error was from 500 to 1,500 meters, deviation from the target, now we can say that after structural changes, the enemy can more actively use the KN-23 for strikes on targets like residential areas, with the aim of terrorizing and killing civilians. It should be noted that the warhead is about 500 kilograms. And the main thing is the flight time to the Ukrainian capital is no more than 2 minutes.
But not Ukraine alone. NATO fighters intercepted a Russian reconnaissance aircraft Il-20 near Poland.
The Russian Federation is monitoring the territory of Poland. Poland is used as the main logistics hub by the United States and our European partners for military technical assistance to the defense forces of Ukraine. Therefore, I do not rule out that there is monitoring of Polish territory to obtain objective control, data on the nature of military technical assistance to our country.